navigating the cybersecurity frontier. And we have with us our moderator, Mr. Sukhdeep Singh, who is alumni from IIM. We have Mr. Tarun Malhotra, founder and MD, CyberCorps. We have Mr. Gurwinder Singh, Director of IT and Ops, SafeAeon. And Mr. Atul Kumar, Chair from DSCI. So over to you, Mr. Sukhdeep.
Thank you very much for joining us today. We have a very special panel with us who are not only subject matter expert, but also they are implementing best of the best practices in the cybersecurity. So we have Mr. Atul Kumar with us. He is a lead government initiatives and global trade at Data Security Council of India. And we have Mr. Gurwinder Singh from Director of IT Operations, SafeAeon. And we have Mr. Tarun Malhotra, Founder and Managing Director, CyberOps. So before starting, I would like to know about what exactly you guys are doing and if you can give us some introduction about you. So we'll start with Tarun, sir.
Good evening, everyone. So my name is Tarun. So we are running a CyberCorps. CyberCorps is all about to protecting data privacy, compliance audit, cyber security, and how to protect the information regarding the client which you're getting from the US, from the Europe side. And we do all compliance audits like GDPR, HIPAA, High Trust, ISO 27001. So this is our specialty of the CyberCorps. So myself, I spent almost 18 years in this field, and after that we have think about to form some company to protect data and data privacy, and we working in CyberCorps to protect infrastructure and data for clients. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you everyone for coming. So the main reason, I'll let you know about the vision that we have for a SafeAeon and why this company was envisioned. So a quick round of introduction. The people who have been running the SafeAeon for last 4 and 5 years have an experience of almost 20 years being in the same domain, catering the enterprises customer. So we have a privilege of having a people on a board which have been working along with Fortune 50 and even Fortune 500 companies as well. So the pain point that we have seen in the domain is the cybersecurity services itself is a privilege that is only available for few. The reason behind that is a cost, obviously. Now, what exactly we are trying to do is replicating the same white glove services that we have been doing for enterprise customer and extending that out to the small players out in the market so that they can also have a flavor and one of the portfolio service in their domain, which they can further resell and can present us out in the front of a customer. We provide a complete from a sales enablement to a deployment and the monitoring as well. So that's exactly the thought behind the SafeAeon. And we have been able to cater out the US, UK market and whatnot. And this year is primarily we are concentrating on India as well as Middle East. Thank you.
Thank you, Gurwinder. Over to Atulji.
Thank you. So I'm Atul, coming from Data Security Council of India. So we are a national level industry body and a think tank. We look after cybersecurity and data protection from almost all the perspective, whether it's national level laws, regulations, while we work with Government India primarily, and also looking at how to enable the ecosystem from innovation and technology development around cybersecurity. Also positioning, one of the charter given by Honorable Prime Minister to Data Security Council of India is to take all the steps so that we as India will become a superpower in cybersecurity, and that's the larger charter we are running, where we are looking at all the aspects from products to services, from cybersecurity adoption to skills development, enablement of policies, almost all the dimensions to enable so that we will be positioned, and I would say up to a certain extent we have already been positioned as a global leader in cybersecurity. So this is what in CRISP we do.
Thank you, panel, for your introduction. So we'll start with the understanding about the cybersecurity. As we know, the technology is evolving. What the technology was 10 decades ago, that technology has been obsolete, and the new challenges we are facing, and the new opportunities also we are having. But with these opportunities, we have threat also to how we can protect our data center and the data, because data, I feel it's an oil of any economy, right? If you want to grow, you have to protect your data, and you have to protect your, internal attacks and from the external attacks. So let's start, and we can discuss with the Atul, and we can try to understand the standpoint of what are the biggest challenges organizations are facing today, because we have fortune companies in India as well as abroad. Since you have moved around the globe and you have the better understanding how the things and how this cybersecurity is evolving. So could you please give us some light on the what are the challenges being faced by the organizations?
For sure. So I'll slightly broaden up this question, if you allow, for sure.
Yeah, sure.
So, see, looking at cybersecurity, typically we see it's happening something at a national level or organizational level, right? But that's something which is impacting even at an individual level, right? The cybercrime kind of things that we are seeing. So if you look at India as an economy, so we are just picking one example. So say UPI, which day in, day out we are using, right? If you just see from that perspective, almost 17 to 18 trillion dollar getting transacted just on UPI in a single month. The value wise, if you see, that is somewhere around 12 billion transactions are happening. 12 billion transactions and 17 trillion or 18 trillion getting transacted. Many of the economies worldwide would not stand parallel to this, right? So the whole gamut is quite different if you see from the India perspective. That's something that if you look at individual. Another angle that I'll add here is, this is something, how are we leveraging technology? Another thing is the pace of adoption of technology. Let's take generative AI, ChatGPT. Many of you would be using it here, right? If you go back to 15 years from now, the pace of adoption of the technology in the ecosystem was not that fast. We used to see mobile phones in the film. Somewhere in US, somebody is using mobile phone, and then it took say 4 or 5 years for the phone to come in our hand. But now, ChatGPT or generative AI kind of stuff, where there was a day when we have heard there is something called ChatGPT which is not launched. Within a week or so, everybody was using it. So that's a kind of I'm just taking one or two examples here, right? This is kind of a pattern of adoption or pace of adoption which is happening, even at the individual level. That's something opening up a lot of or expanding the threat surface in a big way. Now, if you look at from the organization side, whether it's oil and energy company where we are moving from the legacy systems to now digital transformation and all the new kind of things, even this generative AI and all this kind of evolutions, immediately organizations have started looking at it, right? If you take agriculture as a domain, now we are looking at, after UPI and a healthcare stack, the country is now looking at agri stack. Now, when we say agri stack, that means we are going to look at IoT and that kind of adoption, even at that level of agriculture, which is in general is traditional. That kind of scenarios are opening up a bigger threat surface at organizational level. Now, coming to the national perspective, and that's what I was saying, I'll try to broaden this perspective. At national level, cyber, and if you just skim through, just Google search India or XYZ country relation, the cyber and data, as you rightly said, data is like new oil, and data is now taking a central stage. Typically, we call it data-centric approach, right? In all the bilateral, multilateral, data in cyber is becoming integral part. Even from the geopolitics perspective, people wants to retain the ownership on the data and the cyber space overall. So from individual to organization to national, all those things are expanding the threat surface and the dimensions in a very different way. And everywhere those challenges are sort of expanding. Now, if I double click certain aspects here, I know I'm getting slightly longer in this, but I'll just quickly close it. So when I say a national perspective and individual perspective, if you club, cyber crime happening at individual level, it has a national implications as well. Why? Because something happening here, probably somebody sitting in some other country would have done it. That comes at a national level where mutual agreement treaties are required. That's a geopolitical game. So all those things are merging together, and everything is happening in the cyberspace, which is borderless, so dynamic, things are changing. When we have a scope of leveraging generative AI, even adversaries has leverage on generative AI, creating all these fake videos and all those things, deep fakes and all what we call it. So that's all merging together, individual, organization, national, and that's opening and widening the overall threat surface. That's the major challenge which is happening.
Right. You rightly said the challenges are big on a macro level. Let's try to understand from the micro perspective, because day and night Mr. Tarun is like, working with the organization, might be Fortune 500 companies or SMEs. What kind of threats they are facing and what are the challenges they are facing in the, cybersecurity? So you can put some light on that, sir.
So biggest and common threat is nowadays, I think everybody is facing, that is a spam mail, spoof email. Everybody getting a lot of spam mail, spoof mail, and you never know which email can be a disaster for your network, for your data. A single link and click can be a ransomware attack, can be malware attack. So this is a common thing which is getting by everybody. And rest the thing is that, vulnerable, to find out vulnerability in the network. So vulnerability can exist through firewall, through endpoint protection, to their database or servers. So for that, they need to go for the third-party kind of audits, where expert can come into their office and they will check, everything. According to the vulnerability exists in their firewall, need to be stringent in their firewall, or maybe their endpoint protection, or their server also. Right now in India, people are just, working in a network like in a legacy manner. Like earlier, they are using like the simple server they have put, a normal firewall. Sometimes firewall is not there, endpoint protection is not there. But they never know, it can be a big disaster for them. So now the companies are coming up and they are think about the data protection, data privacy, because India is also coming with a DPDP Act, and compliance is there. So there's consequences to be a 2.5 crore rupees fine if somebody is misusing of data, like PI data, personal identified data. So vulnerability need to be fixed to be protect data, and as you told, and like Atul said, that the data is new oil to the business. Data lose, everything goes, business can be a loss or get reputation damage to the company. So the small thing, the vulnerability in the email scam, like spam, spoof, or need to be fixed their network, that is required to be, to do.
Thank you. So the understanding is very clear, like the threat is very big, and it's not only from the outside world, but within the world also. So the problem statement is very clear. So let's try to understand from Gurwinder Singh ji, like what are the new evolving trends we can see in the cybersecurity? Since the technology has evolved in the last couple of years, I'm sure there's a new trends we can see, and the the technology has been upgraded so that we can protect our data from the external or internal attacks. So Gurwinder ji, like give us some more idea upon that. What's the evolving trends in this cybersecurity? Thank you.
Okay. So I'll try to explain that as simple as possible. The reason being, we kind of face these challenges day in, day out, where many companies come to us for a solution where people are doing some kind of a things where they don't have a control of. A very simple example of that is a big organization, they do have a very good presence of non-IT people as well. Now they have been using ChatGPT even for drafting their critical documents as well. Now, I don't want to uphold any statement which has been given by OpenAI, even the Microsoft as well. They are not storing any personal data and not processing that. But from my experience and my prospect, if someone has to put a privacy label on something, there is something different going on behind the scene. A Copilot has been launched by Microsoft. Before the Copilot is launched, 2 months back, what exactly happened is that a lot of personal data of Microsoft customers were surfaced on a GitHub. Now, the problem with that is, to be very precise, it's a mayor department of one of the city council in America. They have been using a ChatGPT and liking it really much, even sending a birthday wishes. From sending birthday wishes to drafting out the critical policy of the city, they have been using that. So I had a meeting with the CTO of a council, and they were having a kind of a scratching their head day in, day out, what exactly they can do it. Now, this is something which we need to be controlled as a IT controlled prospect, even the documented as well. The big part that need to be done is the awareness, how exactly you can be used the chat GPT and whatnot. Media industry, be it any industry which has been revolutionized and presented out a domain in a way where you can put out everything, there is a lot of false information happening, and even something that you're putting out over there is being misused, and the same is going to happen with the chat GPT, and it is happening. Another thing is, back in a day, if I go 2 years back, not much, if you have to design a malicious code, you have to be having a basic knowledge about the IT and the cybersecurity prospect, where you need to understand the infrastructure as well. Now there is a tool out in the market which provide a ready-made kit. You just need to let them know what exactly you need to do, which domain you need to target out. They will create a very concise script of an email which will get out and will give you a phishing email kind of a cookie in your hand, which you can throw out and do whatever you want to do. I give you one example. There is a recent security company which are managed security service provider. They are providing security services to other companies. We have done their awareness campaign for them, a phishing campaign. Do you know how many people have failed in that? It's around 200 people company, and all the people have failed. Even the person who has engaged us to perform a phishing campaign, he also has failed. So this is the kind of a thing that is happening by using a base which is nowadays AI. So need to be regularized the thing in a proper way, so that a good stuff is not falling in the bad hand, and it should be utilized properly as well. For us, it's a win-win situation. For us, we are getting a lot of business, but for the end customer, for the companies, you need to regularize at a local level, at a very start level, whenever there is a new evolution coming out from any technological prospect, at least from the document prospect. You don't have a bucks extra out to put out to have IT controls, have a documented policy to get people aware about what exactly bad can happen, and create a concise and clear boundaries among them, so that they are not going on the internet and doing a bad stuff.
Thank you, Gurwinder. You have touched upon a very good point, like we should have regularities, we should have, checkpoints. So I would like to understand from Tarun also, because Tarun has also touched upon that about the compliances and security systems. Like I'm sure Western countries, they have their own compliances and the security systems. So what's the India standpoint in the security compliances, and if we have any documented? So could you please give some light on that?
So as Gurwinder ji said that there should be a protocol need to be followed according to cyber security. So I can say the employees are the first line of defense. So the employees who are working on the data, actual data, and they're getting a lot of emails, and they are working on a server, maybe on cloud, on premises. So they also need to be awareness trainings, and they need to be aware of what to do, what not to do, according to the cyber security need. And protocol need to be defined for each and every department, what to do. It can be a HR, admin, IT, and all the operation also. It's not only the IT team need to be follow the cyber security. It's every person need to be follow cyber security policy procedure, which is defined by the company. And let's talk about the compliances. Yes, the US has their own compliance. If you heard about HIPAA, high trust, or the SOC 2, type 1, type 2. There's a compliance for European Union, GDPR. There's a compliance for all the Middle East countries like PDPL. But finally, India has also got compliance, their own compliance, which is called DPDP Act. And government is still rolling out it, and maybe in coming months, it's going to be an impact, within all our, nation. So that is really good. Like finally, we got the compliance, and there's the consequences if somebody misuse our personal information. If somebody taken my, PAN card, Aadhaar card, or passport number, if it's misused, so that's going to be a sue under the DPDP Act. So compliance is very much important. Countries have made their compliance, regulatory compliance, because they need to protect nation, their companies and the enterprise or the local people also. So that's why compliance is very much required and important to be followed. So generally what happens, what kind of queries we get in cybercops? So most of our companies coming us where their client is looking for the compliance report or a security report. So from US or maybe Europe, their companies looking for the policy procedures, how the company data is getting managed in India. So on those points, companies contact us and ask us to do audit and guide them according to cybersecurity framework. So we use all kind of framework like NIST, which is used in US, the COBIT from ISACA, to do the security posture assessment and provide them a sustainable model, so that if they get the compliance audit done today, what happened to the next 3 months or 6 months? So there should be a model design and defined so that they can follow that guidelines to protect them from the cyber attacks. So that is required, and compliance is really required to be meet the criteria and that they are following the actual data security for the companies.
Thank you, Tarun. I just refreshed my memories. Like, I started my career with Tata Motors. So when I was a design engineer, so when I started, people generally say you have to protect your designs, right? So I am sure fintech companies, or you can talk about IT companies, their people are very mindful whenever throughout the product lifecycle for cybersecurity. Since the manufacturing sector and as well as the mobility sector is evolving, it's not only about the mechanical. Now it's more about the data-driven this. Whether you can talk about Mercedes-Benz or you can talk about the BMW. When I was talking with BMW also, the things have been started. Protect your data. What's the drivability? How the driving will be happens in Europe or in the Indian market. So with the data, like, we have to protect. Again, throughout the product life cycle for designing development, how we can ensure the integration of cybersecurity, or maybe in the terms of intellectual property rights when we are developing any software solution, or maybe we are developing any design and development. So we can try to understand from Tarun, since he was in Indonesia Atul was in Indonesia. So we can try to understand how we can integrate that. It's not only about the fintech or IT companies they can have. Now it's become a part and parcel of every organization. So give us some light upon that, how we can integrate within the product life cycle.
Sure. So typically we call it like security and privacy both by design, right? That's definitely evolving, and but a challenge side, if you see one challenge that comes, everything is not that we are starting today, right? A lot of things have been going on. Typically legacy systems you will call, or whatever it is, whether it's government infrastructure, whether it's organization infrastructure, you have things which are running. You can't just overhaul immediately. So two perspectives that I say here is, first you need to know your data. If you know your data, typically we call it like data classification or some sort of identification of data, right? If I just connect it what Tarun was saying in terms of regulations and all, right? What data is lying in your machine, it is carrying some sort of liability on your head. Just assume we are carrying Aadhaar data in our machine. We don't know probably. But now we have DPDPA in India, yet to be enacted because rules are yet to come. But if something goes wrong with that data, even if I don't know, then that liability would come in on my organization. So first thing and foremost thing is to know what you are handling. Second thing is, in terms of integration, if I say you need to know the complete life cycle, where it's flowing. If you see recent attacks, which is centric to the data, most of the things are happening through, or many of the things, if I don't say most, many of the things are happening leveraging APIs. So two things, my data is lying on my application or on my data center, I am encrypting it and I am doing all kind of protection over there. But through different applications, and many of the government applications would fall in that actually, where we are leveraging APIs to deliver a lot of services. It will fall on organizations interfaces as well, where through that interfaces APIs, we are sharing the data to other organizations, third parties, different applications for different processings. Protection of that data throughout that life cycle, even where it's going now. What is the security and privacy measures that entity, that application, that the third party is taking care? We need to look at that as well. It's not just what's happening in my premise. If I just double click the part of DPDPA, Digital Data Protection Act, now if you see, the whole liability is lying with the data principle that data fiduciary that we call. It's not with data processor directly. Legally, it's lying with data fiduciary, who is actually owner of that data at that point in time. Then I need to know what and where my data is going, how it's getting processed, all those kind of things. So again, just to summarize it, first is knowing your data, the whole life cycle where it's flowing, so that you can protect and take care of that data. Now, when I see data classification, there are certain top secret data, there are secret data, there are non-secret data as well, like public data. If I know it, if I have classified it, I'll say this data can be encrypted, this data can be sort of masked, pseudo-masked, and so on and so forth. Or it can remain in the plain text. But that everything will happen if I know my data. So that is the first step that we have to take.
Right.
Another angle that I'll add here is the cross-border sharing of the data. And the physical and virtual, the physical and virtual we'll say, right? Merging together. Like in case of the IoTs and all, what's happening? Your physical world and the virtual world, the cyberspace is coming together. Now, what and where my data is lying? Can I encrypt my data on my IoT devices? Then you need lightweight encryption kind of thing. You can't encrypt it. Another thing, in terms of delivery, all the transactions which are happening, when initially I was saying that 18 billion transactions and all those things, right? It's happening at a very high pace. Normal encryption we can't even apply over there. There should be some lightweight encryption which is not impacting my processing speed. Otherwise, my whole transaction will get hampered. So when I handle my data, I should know what is the data and what kind of things are there, what kind of technologies are in place. While I have to protect my data while it is in processing, could be like homomorphic encryption. If I know that kind of technology is there, if I know what is my data getting processed, can I do that? Only then I'll be able to see that. So, okay, so knowing the data, what kind of innovations are happening if we merge everything together along under the line of the regulations and the regulatory requirements, then we'll be able to take care of it.
Right. Rightly you said, like we need to, there are a number of ways we can protect our data by encrypting the data properly. We can protect it by passwords, or we can have, software system in place. Since it's very easy for the Fortune 500 companies or the big companies, whereas for the small startups, SMEs, it's going to be very challenging for them with the limited resources. So Tarun, in this sphere, how the small enterprises and the small startups can, integrate into their strategy, so they can ensure that the data can be protected and it won't affect their internal or external world. So what's your stand on this?
Okay, so company need to what kind of data they are managing. What is the data criticality? Like Atul says, data classification is required. If it's a PI data where a company is collecting the passport, maybe the Aadhaar card, PAN card, or personal information or the phone number, that data is critical. If data can be misused, that can be harm for the a person or the entity also. So for that, company need to come up with a plan to be data need to be encrypted. Data need to be stored accordingly, where they have minimum access to the people who don't require to be access to data. Then they have to stringent their security policies. It can be a endpoint protection or the system, or deploy some kind of rules and procedures to, and they can deploy DLP, data leakage loss prevention system, where they can be follow those guidelines. And whatever existing infrastructure they have, they need to be makes that infrastructure need to be rechecked by some expert, security expert, to define the guidelines to be maintain the system server or firewall accordingly.
Right. Thank you very much, Tarun, for such an enlightening. So last point I will give you to the Gurwinder ji. All right. So we will take the questions first. Yeah.
We have a Right to Information Act, and we have
once it is enforced, even 43A for that matter of IT Act, that is given. Once it is there, it will be.
Amendment rules 2008, all will be changed according to the new DPDP Act. The detailed rules sheet has to be just come, which is expected anytime.
Can we take the last question?
Yeah, I have a question. You touched upon secure by design. I think we never spoke of the development security, because one is of course the protection of the data, which is always there. You need to protect it using controls, access controls, policies, network security, endpoint data protection, and so on. But how about the development security? Like, isn't it a similar critical, because if DevOps is implementing, what security needs to be baked in?
So, say development or security at the development level, that's highly important. That's why I started with that point that everything is not that you are starting from today, right? A lot of things you have already done. So, if I just take a step back on that, now whole paradigm of cybersecurity is changing. Couple of years back, the way we were managing security was more like assessment driven. We have something and now we are assessing and we are good, we are done and dusted, right? But now how it's managing right now is more like real time management. Something goes wrong, we are there to manage it. That's happening now these days actually. How we are moving from now onwards, that's happening more like a resilience and response based. Now question is not that whether attack will happen or not. It's going to happen, just assume it's going to happen, right? How fast, how resilient you are on, and that you can connect with the resiliency, you can connect with the business continuity and all those things, right? Correct.
In development, in coding, there's a new technology came like Salt. Salt is a technology to protect your password. So people don't know about that.
Correct.
They use that thing, that is cyber safe thing, cyber security thing. Yeah?
Right.
If you look at the most of the ransomware attacks that have happened in the past, it's a human error. You have redundant user IDs, APIs open on the web.
Yes.
So that has been the left part more than a security.
So that's the thing. Now, when we have to see now your development thing, what you are doing is definitely you need to take care of that. You have already done it, even you need to take care of that, because something goes wrong. Just let's take chota sa example. Your production environment and your test environment, development environment. You have uploaded a lot of things and you'll say it's not my production environment, it's development environment. I'll not protect in that way. But your whole data is lying there. You are leveraging probably the main database itself. That can go in public and it's a breach, right? So all those kind of things will fall under this resiliency and response kind of paradigm, where what you're doing right now, you have to think from that perspective. I have to be resilient. What you have already done it, even if you are leveraging legacy systems, you need to take care of that side as well, and you have to make sure. And as Gurwinder was saying, right, this malware as a service or ransomware as a service, now it's not like I need to have great expertise in developing that. I can just go on dark web and I'll find those things and I'll launch attack. So question is not again how and what is going to happen. It will, you have to protect it.
So with a limited time, we can conclude. The journey of 1,000 miles start with a single step, right? So the journey of 1,000 miles start with a single step. So the first single step is like, we have to protect, we have to be very mindful. And I believe it was a very interesting, and you got a very first-hand inputs from the panel, who are not only, I again say, subject matter expert, but they are the people who are implementing one of the best practices in the cybersecurity. Thanks, Atul, for joining us. Thanks, Gurwinderji. Thanks, Tarunji, for giving your feedback. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. I'll request you to just stay for a while. Kamaldeepji, if you can help me facilitate them. So our senior TiE member, Mr. Kamaldeep Singh ji is here. Yes, for Atul Kumar. Kamaldeep sir, ये भी लेने. Thank you. Gurwinder. Okay. Gurwinder Singh ji, Director of IT.
Sir.
Tarun Malhotra, Founder and MD, CyberCorps. Right. And one for our moderator, Mr. Sukhdeep Singh ji. Product Manager, Mahindra Group. And we can be seated here again for the next session, and speaker is here only. So we'll be starting our session. The session is on governance, risk and compliance for strategic excellence and the trends for 2024. Governance, risk and compliance for strategic excellence and trends for 2024. And we have with us already Mr. Rajiv Dutt, General Manager, MEA and APAC. Thank you so much, gentlemen. Mr. Rajiv Dutt is here already.